All right. I think we're live. Uh, are we? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, we are. Beautiful. You'd think it gets better that you learn how to do streaming, but apparently no. Um, I can do a little louder. Okay, okay. I think we should be all right on the sound, but let me know if the sound is um, not working or anything. But I think we should be all right. We should be. Here we go. Oh, the sound is low. Um, what else can I crank? Okay. All right. Mm, good morning. Beautiful. I would think it was a peaceful day, but apparently now U.S. Took over Venezuela or something. I don't know. At least they removed the Maduro out of there, so that's been an interesting night for some, I guess. Yeah, and I didn't have time to get coffee. I don't know why I slept in. Like I usually wake up much earlier than this, but today it's. I think it shows that I just woke up like 30 minutes ago from here. It should be all right. Yeah, Happy New Year. I had a great time Christmas and New Year. I took about a week off. I still worked on the channel and I filmed the video and stuff, but didn't have to go to work. It was really nice. Life is beautiful when you don't have to go to work. That's my conclusion. All right. Okay. We'll do what we'll do the presentation. So I compiled some memes over the year. And then we are going to have like open questions or whatever. It's not actually like it's not that much. I guess like you can go both ways. You can include everything and anything, or just like cut it short. So I cut it a little shorter. Here you go. All right. I have cats also because I didn't have time to spend with them in the morning. So now it will be they'll just like run around and make noises and well, they will hopefully they'll be cute. You know, it's always nice when there are cute cats in the stream. Okay, let me set myself. Here you go. All right. Does it work? Yeah. So I organized it. Oh, I need to pull up my notes. So I can read from the notes. Because last time I did not read from the notes. And it was too much of a too fast speed talking, I think. Okay. Can I? Oh, do I feel like sometimes they start like, you know, like if you do go, okay, here you go. The okay, here you go. Sometimes you start to feel old when you interact with technology. Here we go. Okay. So yeah, so it's roughly organized as people, events, and concepts. It's not in chronological order. That was the other option, but I don't know. It seemed more organic that way. So the first person of the year, and it is kind of a little bit in chronological order, I guess, is Elon Musk, and I did the whole stream just on Elon Musk himself. So very notable figure, of course, though he kind of lost traction to the middle and end of year, but I'm sure he'll return if he wants to make some noise. So we have some good references there. Of course, he's saying that he's not doing ketamine for real. And then the reflection on his time with Trump. I did kind of like cut the Doge part in the beginning because there are, of course, right wing memes that pound him like, you know, like they picture him as a hero and whatever. And I, so yeah, but I did capture like the end result of it. That was the attempt here. That people like in the end he fell out of favor with Trump, and was and he is still generally disliked. I think there was like a joke on uh, Grok where people were asking Grok on X, asking them to say what would people generally say if they were sitting close to Musk, and the answer is like, "Go on, do yourself," or you know, stuff like that. Which is like, yeah, you have no real mates, and you shall walk the plank. The first meme. Um, so yeah. Anyhow, life is, I guess, difficult for the richest man in the world. Um, what I said here for the notes was that Elon Musk's political career peaked this year, as did his wealth. Musk started to deepen his ties with Trump in a hope of obtaining political power and public support, but it appears, though, that plan fell through, and Musk was distanced by Trump and outright hated by everybody else. And that's what we see in memes. Um, and that was actually the end result of like all this online presence. That in the end, it sort of did not work out for Trump, for Musk, at least not in the current state. As I said, maybe he'll return, but the end result of his meme campaign and his Doge plan, which didn't amount to anything. Well, it amounted to some firings and I guess like some misfortunes and stuff like that. But overall, the plan of Doge was not even close to being executed, to the point where Trump went over and overspent again by so much more than the Musk would want to. Let's say. Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody! Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. I did not. I was planning to have this stream like over the Christmas holidays, and then I realized it was like I think 26th was Friday and 27th was Saturday, and I was like, oh no, just the Saturday came too fast. I was off since Christmas, and then you know the days lost count. I entered the void. There is no days, no mornings, no nights. Everything is a mush. Second, important person of the year according to memes is Nick. So I think 2025 is the official year that Nick Fuentes broke his containment. That he is now active part of American culture, not the undercurrents, but like the mainstream culture, at least as far as you can say that stuff can be mainstream on the internet. But you know, he's been on Piers Morgan, he's been on what's his name, Tucker Carlson podcast. Uh, like he's more prevalent in memes. Like his present, like his streams are cut more often, and I see more of them. So I have like one here where he says the GOP must be destroyed and replicated and replaced by the left-right populist coalition. The left has to give up immigration, and the right has to give up on free markets, which is basically National Socialism. So yeah, so I said that Nick broke containment, splitting modern MAGA and Western conservatism with the question of how far are they willing to go to remain in power. Do cons and power have the political will to admit to themselves and others that irony-poisoned 4chan nationalism is the ideology at the heart of their modern rise to power? Or will they try to hide behind the facade of order and common sense politics? That's my notes on Mr. Nick Fuentes. But overall, like we'll cover more of what he symbolizes. Yeah, like it's unfortunate, but also not let's say widely unforeseen. Oh god, so ashamed to be from his former suburb. Smell is nicer on your side of town, even though you're by the sewage plant. I bet. Yes, it's you know, I mean, I don't think he is Mexican. I think like he is like still like generally white. Maybe he has like something there, but the joke stands. We'll talk about the pan-racial fascism and stuff like that in the end. But yeah, like there is like a God. I didn't include this meme, but there was like a oh, the reflection on him and Kanye West that was saying like, oh, like it's like the Hitler in like this like position in a chair, and they said, oh, your legacy will be carried by the Mexican gay boy and the black man. So that's kind of what we're having in America right now. Oh, his father is part Mexican. Yeah, yeah, maybe. I mean, like he probably is like Spanish to Mexican. What I like, so yeah. Um, a lot of like many such cases where you can have like white nationalism in Latin adjacent regions. Um, yeah, so that's still a case. But we'll cover this in a second. I think it's like closer to the end as like a concept. Um, but yeah, I think we officially broke the containment on Nick this year, and he is now part of. He is now part. It's a fact. He is now part of the mainstream American culture and mainstream political discussion, whether people like it or not. Um, and he even acknowledged this on Pierce Morgan. Yeah, yeah, I think so. Oh, he is like the Mexican part. Yeah. I mean, like maybe he is. I mean, like really, it sort of doesn't matter. In this case, we'll talk about why. But like the really, he could be black, and it would not matter. He could still like have the same views, and people will still watch him. I think people do watch him for the views, for this like the fact that he is, and that's kind of like why he is so easily integrated into memes, is the fact that he's just like all irony and all jokes. Like he's just like a 4chan baby, um, which I'm partially am too. Such were the times, but he is just like this embodiment of 4chan type of politics, where like nothing is serious, and you can see this with assassination of Charlie Kirk, because like GOP and mainstream conservatives, they basically just like venerated Charlie Kirk, and they can't touch him, they can't do anything. For Nick, none of this matters. Like he can just continue and like meme about him, and he doesn't care. Like I think if anything happens to Nick and his legacy turns into Charlie Kirk's style legacy, he'll be fine with this. Like it's just how he is. Kind of someone special. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he went on Candace Owens, and they argued about like she basically tried him to like get a girlfriend, I guess, which is an interesting take on Nick. I don't think he'll ever. Well, maybe there is like he has like women in his fan base, so if he would want to have a girlfriend, he would. But again, I think that's just like not who he is. Yeah, Mexican heritage makes internalized oppression all the worse. Yeah, kind of. Um, oh yeah, the next guy. The next important guy who broke containment is Peter Thiel, and to some extent Palantir. Um, so Peter Thiel also tried. He's still probably trying. I think like not like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is probably like in the dip right now. Can't be said the same about Thiel. Oh, he has cat boys in his fan base. Yeah, yeah, this like weird part of transness where people become so far right that they eventually just transition into woman. Uh, oh. Things get weird on the edges. Um, so yeah, we'll return back to Nick. He's gonna come back eventually in a different, in a new form. He's gonna be reborn in the end of this presentation, I promise. Um, yeah, well, he is like dislikable. Like if you like, this is like the, I guess like this is the part of Nick's appeal, that his politics is absolutely terrible, but he is very funny and very memeable and all those things. Like you can like joke around with him, and to be honest, like he still doesn't have any notable political power. So it's not like Thiel, who we have here. So Peter Thiel is dislikable and he has a lot of political power. Nick Fuentes is dislikable, and he still does not have that much influence. Like he has like he starts getting there. If he has a political will, he will have more. But he is still at the point where we can just like safely joke about him, and like he's still like in this like 4chan space. Like he's an internet influencer, more so that he is an active political figure, which I say like if he wants to, he probably will become eventually. I guess depends how much money is in there. Though again, I think he's doing it just for the sake of like I mean, most of the people who do this, like if you just do like streaming, like even like myself, like you can look at like Hassan Piker, all the people who do this like extensive work where they talk is just because we want to talk, and then money is secondary. Oh, when your 78-year-old dad asks you to explain who Nick Fuentes is, I still didn't get like I know that my parents knew like who Charlie Kirk was at the time that he died. I don't think they know Nick Fuentes yet, and they are not conservative really. Like they're more like centrist. So I know that it didn't reach them yet, but I think if your relatives are in like more conservative space, yeah, this will be the time that they will get acquainted with Nick Fuentes. And I guess like if they are like, because he wasn't Pierce Morgan, like that was, I mean, a part of it is like platforming, and how the internet works, because he rose to attention, and now everybody wants to have Nick Fuentes on their podcast, which I think is exactly more bigger problem than Nick Fuentes himself. Is like they just like, oh, we found this like piece of trash, and now this piece of trash is popular. Let's platform him across every single podcast. That's kind of what happens, just like for the sake of clicks and popularity. Do you head to Groiper, or do you try to avoid this subject entirely? That's a good question. What about like incels? Like how do you, well, I guess like you can try to explain incels to older generation, but yeah, like Groiper is probably a step too far out of the mainstream. Though they do like actually Groypers have more political, like as a movement, they have more political influence on mainstream conservative politics in U.S. Okay, we'll return to Nick. Peter Thiel, I guess the more evil guy, the evilest guy of the year. Award goes to Mr. Peter Thiel, who also broke containment. So he also went on he was in New York Times, I believe. Yes, the New York Times. This is this Blue Ocean interview. Is the New York Times. I have what? I don't know if you can like hear him scream, but he's there. I have two cats which are just like walking and talking, so he's one of them. He's gonna come over, maybe. We'll cover Hassan Piker too, which reminds me, but I don't electrocute my cats. Anyhow, the Peter Thiel broke containment and became another prominent figure. So not in a way like he was present before. He was like a rich guy, sort of. Now he is a political figure. Now more people are becoming aware of Palantir and of Peter Thiel, and start to question those things. And that's why you kind of like find in memes. I think there was one where like the Palantir stare, the top left, when the Freedom Cell says something so severely encephobic that you gotta hit them with the Palantir stare. The self-described Antichrist. He is trying to convince everybody that like, cause he still went on like that. He had the private lecture this year where he talked about Antichrist, and he was like, basically nobody talks about Antichrist. Oh, like if you want like the Behind the Bastards, they have a good coverage of those lectures. But yeah, he was basically like, oh no, nobody talks about Antichrist, despite of course like it's like very much part of culture. Like we have horror films, we have like movies and stuff like that, which talk about Antichrist widely. I'm not a big goer to the church, but I think it's probably is like discussed in church too. Especially we had like pandemic, we have wars. I'm sure there's plenty of denominations which think about, and like that we're living in the end of times or something. I'm sure there is that. And like he's still trying to convince everybody, which is his old song, that Greta Thunberg is an antichrist. So if you think who is the true antichrist, is Greta Thunberg. Definitely not the richest guy in the world who owns all of the American surveillance and military. No, no, no. No, 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 don't think about that. Yeah, so he's has an interesting take on that. Well, he's trying to convince that like, oh, somebody else is an antichrist, even though he's in position. Though, yes, as noted in New York Times interview, this like bottom left, this is the original picture. First of all, he looks so weird, but whatever. But yeah, this is like his answer to the question where I forgot the journalist's name from New York Times, where he asks him like, "Oh, don't you think that you are the Antichrist since you own all of that technology?" And he just has this like moment of, and then he just brushed it off. So yeah, Peter Thiel also becomes famous, and I put notes for him. Oh yeah, I said Peter Thiel and to lesser extent Alex Karp and other tech investors rise to popularity as antichrist figures. So we and like regular people will start viewing them as antichrist, which is exactly what happens, even though he tries to redirect it elsewhere. And as destroyers of the world, or as cool tech bros for the stupid. So there is like, I don't put those names up, but like there are people and memes that would be engaging with Thiel and Alex Karp and Palantir in a positive light. That exists. Online spaces have been flagging risks of censorship, surveillance, mass control, and propaganda by American private companies injecting themselves into military and policing of all Western countries. The control of Palantir is beyond US. He had to reboot. That's kind of how it looked like, though he does look progressively more weird. I have like this little part of me is like thinking there is a potential that like whatever all these rich people are doing to themselves in terms of extensive experimental medical procedures and testosterone injections, like all of that stuff is not particularly healthy. So there is a possibility that they don't live that long simply because of trying to live really long. But again, I also doubt that because they probably will stop as soon as there is like markers of like significant effect on health. But like how if you have like really low body fat and really high testosterone, it's really bad for your heart. That's not like a questionable statement. That's like universal, pretty universal like thing. And that's kind of like like the older, what do you call them, the older bodybuilders, like early 2000s when there was like a lot of experimental bodybuilding happening. There were a lot of cases of injuries to heart that were caused by low body fat, high testosterone. But it's in fashion now, which I think is like, I think that's why he looks so leathery, almost like a rubber, or maybe it's something else. I don't know. But like yeah, if it's just like low body fat and testosterone injections, then it's just like, I don't know. Might take them out before anybody else needs to take them out. So, okay. That's all I have for Seal. I think I have more people there. Oh yeah, of course. Of course I have more people there. JD Vance, another prominent figure, which I think, and then there is still a potential because Trump is so old that he at some point will become president, but also part of it is that he needs to maintain the presence, because even if everything goes well with Trump and he's going to retire, somebody needs to take over the power. And currently all the MAGA power is stuck to Trump himself. It's like in the end, it's a culture about one person. There is no hair. So JD Vance is kind of projected to be a hair, but again, like he's not very that much likable. He did though try to ride this wave of, it was like partially forced. I believe there is like an article and there is a YouTube video that tries to argue that JD Vance memes, like all those multi-face memes, they are in part forced campaign. Maybe. There's a lot of them. In which case it's a successful enforced campaign, which a lot of the times it's hard to force a meme, but you can. It's my morning voice. So I put notes for JD Vance is, aside of losing his face to AI, Vance has been prominently featured in meme culture, raising a question if there is such thing as bad PR, or if it is all good to have, or it is actually good to have your face plastered all over the internet, which is what happened to Vance, and that's why I think he's a little bit of important person here, because he's literally everywhere, and a lot of it goes down to, well, is it bad or is it good? I think it's actually good for him. I think it makes him more liked and more known, despite being so funky and like people just doing like he was the first one before it happened to Charlie Kirk, but his face was basically stripped, and you can and apply to anything, apply to you can put JD Vance, chubby JD Vance onto anything, and it will make a good meme. So this is like the first part of AI integration into memes. I have more. Mr. Hassan Piker. Another continuation of a question: is it actually good to be in bad memes, or, you know? I think it kind of is. Like, I think that's if anything, with JD Vance and Hassan Piker, Kaya memes, in the end, it doesn't, like, you know, if you take it, like, if you don't let yourself cancel, like he just, both him and JD Vance sort of like bounced it off, then it becomes good. That's the current flow of meme culture and internet. Like, if you bounce off of it, Kirkification. Yeah, Kirkification will also happen in this presentation. But yeah, like he was just like Hassan Piker, and between Hassan Piker and JD Vance memes, it's like, well, if you are a part of the culture, it doesn't really matter if it's in a negative light. Like, you can use the negative information to your advantage, because negative information spreads way further. Especially if it's like, I mean, like, they didn't find like a body in his fridge. It was his dog. So, yeah. So same question with Hassan: is all PR good PR? I said probably yes, but we're yet to see. So attention-driven online economy reshapes our world with attention-seeking politics. That's between both Hassan and JD Vance and Nick Fuentes. That's kind of what we see, is that attention drives the politics, which, to be honest, is always a little bit like this, especially on the mainstream level. But with internet now, the more traction you get, the further you push, the better it is. It doesn't matter how it goes. Like, it doesn't matter if the information is positive or negative. As far as it spreads wide, that's good. Okay. Zahran Mamdani. So, of course, probably the most, I would say, one of the most prominent figures of this year. Still moving. In the interesting way, he is between him and Hassan Piker, they are the two most prominent figures on the left adjacent spaces in meme culture. Like, yes, there are other people. Like, let's say there is AOC, but AOC did not integrate into meme culture. There were attempts, but all of those attempts were bad. Zoe, however, this is technically a first online-driven campaign of the left, which became so prominent, like it became international. He is, we'll see how his politics are, but he did successfully integrate into meme culture and used meme culture to his advantage, and the vertical format videos, of course, were very important to his campaign, which is great. Like, 'cause he was like cut, sliced, his face was applying to everything. Again, it moved really well. Part of it is because people actually like him, which a lot of Democratic politicians don't really get, is that to integrate into internet space, you need to be liked to begin with, because it's a lowbrow sort of artish space. So a lot of memes are created by people who don't need any credit. It's not like it's just like stuff that happens out of their heart and out of their. They find something funny, they slice it, put it online, and then it spreads. Like that's the basic of it. So you need to be liked. Politician needs to be liked to be integrated into memes, which not a common thing for Democrats recently. Yeah, like Zoe meeting with Donald Trump. Yeah, like it's interesting because in the end, I think there is like part of Trump, which is like Trump as a businessman, as a New Yorker type of player. Somebody said that he just likes winning, and I think it's true because Trump does not see Zoe as like political enemy. Well, sometimes he like posted that way, but mostly he just sees him as a guy who's popular and who's winning. So he just sees another successful guy out of like he's just like nobody who is liked and who is winning, and that's kind of like the allure, which I think is attractive to Trump as a person, not as a president. So yeah, I like, of course, the Mamdani Trump, a New American Compromise. Is it Mamdani? Like, oh, it's a they made a typo because I think it's an I at the end. Anyhow, but I also like this one on the top right. Can I put like a mouse there? Yeah. Oh yeah. With AOC and Mamdani like firing Bernie Sanders into the New York towers. Absolutely amazing. This is like a peak meme culture, and you can't get stuff like that if the politician is not liked. It's really hard to get a genuine meme like that. And of course, like him on the bus in the end, with the this rainbow rainbow communism. So this is the flag of the fully automated gay space communism. For those unaware of the references, so it's just like him basically just like vomiting rainbow communism all over the New York. You can't get stuff like that if the politician is just non-genuine. So we'll see how his politics are. Of course, like when people come to power, things do change. But overall, I think it's been very interesting to watch. Very successful campaign for sure. It at least gives like some alternative to the hard right in the American politics, at least. So yeah, we'll see. And of course, also it's a new generation of politicians, which is important for the America, because you only can run on 80-year-olds for that long. Somebody has to take, and we see a lot of new faces, like right, like so. JD Vance is relatively young. Zoe is relatively young. Nick Fuentes is relatively young. Hassan is young. Charlie Kirk was also young, I guess. So all of those figures which were prominent in American politics this year, all of them were of a coming generation, which is good to see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. When we moved from the event, so we'll get to Kirk, I promise. But we're going from people to the events. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the events, and we're going to talk a little bit about the concepts. So biggest non-event of the year is Epstein files. There is a lot of great memes about like censorship, which obviously like especially the move like the Trump's presence in there, which is like censored, but everybody knows who he is there. I like the meme in the center is actually kind of important. The no Epstein files, which of course references the attempt at Trump's life. But the thing is, this meme is not coming from the left-leaning space. This is meme from, because I monitor different spaces, but this one is from the right-leaning spaces, which of course there is a right-wing argument against Trump, but with Epstein files, uh, the Epstein files generated a split in the right-wing space, which I think will go further. It's like a crack because some people will basically, you have like somebody, let's say like Alex Jones, right? So Alex Jones spent his whole life as a conspiracy theorist saying like, oh, there is a big gang of like people eating, like politicians eating babies basically. um, and they control all the world, they will control all of us, they will install authoritarian government and um, put the digital currency in. So what is his like regular spiel? And then that stuff kind of happens, except it's his guys. So what does Alex Jones do with, the decades of his life? And then it appears that, yeah, like everything you say is kind of true, except it's the guys you've been supporting all along. He just reserved to like, I don't know, Labubu 67 memes, which is the last thing that he posted, and just saying, oh guys, like don't worry, it's not that bad. Like, don't think about it. It's not that bad. Let's talk about, like, I don't know, Hillary's emails or whatever. So things like that are hard to get through in the, like, especially for public right-wing figures. So they have to make something of this Epstein file situation, and the fact that they are trying to release them, but they are not really releasing them, and then they are releasing them, but it's nothing new, and then they are releasing it again, but everything is censored. So like at some point you have to make the calls. The call coming from inside the White House. Yes. And then the other like interesting case of that is MTG, like May what's her name? Mary Tate, what? I forgot her name. Greenie? The other conspiracy QAnon lady. Where she just said like, well, you know what? I'm resigning. Part of it is like that I guess that she's getting pension, but part of it is that like she doesn't say it, but internally it's like, yeah, like she went to power on the wave of QAnon with the America First, arrest, like drain the swamp, and then it appears that you're the swamp. What do you do in this situation? Resign. Part of possible solution is just to resign and just to say, you know what, I'm going home, I'm done. Which I guess what she's doing is opposed to Alex Jones, who is just trying to pretend that nothing happened. But you still have somebody like Nick, and this is like the central meme is like more right adjacent to Nick Fuentes and further right, where people say, well, actually, yes, like all of those people in power, they are just like, Democrats, Republicans, whatever, all this like old flock. Margie Taylor Greenie. Yeah, here we go. I don't know how you read it, if you read it like Green or Greenie. Anyhow, she is gonna resign in about, I believe, 3 days on Tuesday. Okay. I forgot to read my notes for Zoe. Oh, but it's good. Everything we did cover. Yeah. So yeah, for the Epstein file, the non-event of the year is the Epstein file release that is happening, but never actually happens. Which is the Epstein files are not only important in the sense of disclosing a bunch of political and cultural figures eating babies, but because the files are at the core of the QAnon movement underpinning MAGA. And that's kind of part of it, because not necessarily like actually QAnon was sort of important. Like, the January 6th Capitol, I don't know what to call this, riot, I guess, was organized as part of QAnon. A lot of the people there were part of the QAnon movement, which was internet based, but also very it was like generated by the online spaces, but people would get attracted to it on the promise that they're going to drain the swamp, there is like a conspiracy, and they're going to resolve it. And a lot of those movements were very powerful. A lot of sentiment that they pushed, and conspiracies, even when people did not fully adopt them. Green like the color, not like the dog treat. Okay, thank you. Yes. So she's green. Then, yeah. So, like it's it's Epstein files are very important in QAnon, and QAnon was the moving, like what maybe it wasn't that big, but it was very important in moving the MAGA into power. And now all that QAnon base has to deal with the fact that the Epstein files are still not released, and then whatever parts are released are still very like questionable, because you can. This is part of why the memes are reflecting on Trump, like where people just like put the black square over Trump's face and you can still see it's him and you know it's him, because this is what you get from the Epstein files. That yeah, like they don't need to tell you all the information, but from the information that is there, you can kind of understand that yes, like all like Trump is there, and then apparently the what is his God, Noam Chomsky is also there with like too much. Like it's I guess good for him he's dead, so he can't get canceled. But yeah, like a lot of people that like comes through. Like you don't need to know like if Bill Clinton is obviously there, but like you don't need to get the full picture. You get the information from there, and you have to go with what you have, which for QAnon is enough to stall that stall that movement. So yeah, Alex Jones and MTG and other QAnon figures now have to split from MAGA or reserve to, I said, demagogic castration, because I think that's what happened to Alex Jones, as they have to hide the fact that there is a cabal of, let's not get myself censored, in charge of their government. There is a mass surveillance, there is a tyrannical state, but that's their own guys who QAnon helped to bring into power. So they just have to wrestle with this finding. Yes. So though of course very important, Epstein files I think will continue, even though I don't think we'll see the files. But the meme circulation around it and like the whole like cracking of the MAGA movement will continue. Do I think the non-release of the Epstein files could be part of the neoconservative counter-revolution within the American nationalist counter-revolution? Yes. Well, I think the fact that it's not released, like the non-release part of it, is probably just like the establishment just trying to protect itself, like the older Democrats and older, like everybody who's basically, because like Epstein passed away, I think, like 2010-ish, something there, right? So, new generation of politicians actually doesn't really care. Like MTG, she doesn't care. She came to power. She didn't hear anything of Epstein. Older guys do. So, because the thing is, yes, like not just speaking of the island, it's also like because Epstein is also showing the financial ties. So the non-release of it is like people trying to protect themselves and like protecting their kind of linked group, but yeah, there's still like the people will like obviously there's like a split in the movement, because like the harder right, like Nick Fuentes and MTG would absolutely vote for and she did would absolutely be in favor of releasing such files. So for them, they are like splitting off the mainstream MAGA movement on QAnon, like on the ground of QAnon, on the ground of Epstein files. Passed away, yeah. Under unknown conditions. Maybe somebody helped him. I think so. But, okay. The other important event of the year is the mainstreaming of AI, especially when it comes to memes. I think this is 2025 was the first year that AI firmly embedded itself in the culture. Before, of course, we had AI, but like not that meaningfully. Now it is, yeah, Kirkification of everything. Most of the Kirkified memes and a lot of JD Vances are made using AI. So they are, like faces generatively put on the other meme format, which is use of AI. We also see, of course, that the world you grew up in no longer exists. This is part of the AI sentiment. Uh, and of course, did I put stuff here? Oh, I put it a little bit further, but the US White House pages are currently utilizing AI widely. We also see conservatives utilizing AI very widely to generate just basically whatever. Whatever they see fit. It was part of the Trump's election campaign already. AI was very prominent there, but it's just because he's pioneer of technology, I guess. For everybody else, um, this is the year. This was the year for AI memes. Put everything into Ghibli. Uh, you know, Grok, sexy Grok came 2025, so she's not there, or he's not there. I don't know. Actually, good question. Is sexy Grok a femboy or a woman? So I'm not sure, actually. But yeah, um, I'm not sure what was the concept behind the sexy Grok. But I put some notes here for AI. I said, um, Ghibli Arts turns human trafficking and state repressions into literal cartoons. Collapse will be turned into comics, not by artists, but by AI, who does not care much for suffering and who God. By the, collapse will be turned into comics, not by artists, but by AI, who does not care much how much suffering needs to be washed away to give ICE officers anime smiles. Um, I'm sorry, it's my morning reading. And the other important and perhaps even more important consequence of AI is the its imprint on media. And for the first time, that since the invention of photography and videography, the photographic evidence cannot be believed any longer. Uh, yeah, should showing and should dropping. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so once again, and like since the early internet, we have to review if anything online can be believed at all. Which there is no comic here because I tried not to put too many comics here. Um, but there, God, I forgot who did this. There was like one of the online comic artists where it was basically like 90s millennial, and the parent is telling them like, oh, don't trust anything online, everything online is fake. And now it's like reverse because now it's like a boomer parent and grown up millennial, and they say like, dad, you should not believe stuff online, everything online is fake. Because we kind of reversed a little bit, where the older generations now, who used to tell us when we were growing up that stuff online is fake, and that we should not believe it, they are now accepting this. Like they can't. And to be honest, like a lot of it is just like the type of interaction with digital culture and age. They can't tell AI apart from not AI, and it's like it's very hard to explain. But like for example, my dad, I know that he can't distinguish, not for the like, not for the not because he is like in any way not trying, but just because it's similar enough, which is in part, I believe, like I've tried to read the article about that. Like in part, I believe it's the exposure, because like he obviously does not spend that much time online as I do, and our brains somewhat adapt to AI. Like once you figure out how it looks like, you will be able to tell that it's AI. But again, like we also have use of AI. Like I don't know what was the Trump speech through the year where even I saw it like it's AI generated, where everybody said that he has had a stroke. So the presentation appears to be altered by AI, like processed by AI, not created by, like it's like assisted tool. So it leaves that AI imprint, which again, like me as a person who is able to distinguish AI in most of the cases, I see it, I think it's AI, but really it's not. It is not AI. It's just imprinted because it's been edited by AI. It gets really complicated. Anyhow, it's like it gets really difficult, and like the outcome of AI is that nothing is nothing is true, not even conceptually, because not only we deal with fake events generated by AI, but we also are dealing with where I was going with that. Not only we are dealing with the AI going into directly fake information, yeah, but we are also dealing with AI as in like in conservative spaces. Anything you wish to be true, you can generate like a cartoon of it, and it's perceived as real, even though like it's obviously fake. Like it's AI generated on a prompt and it looks like a cartoon, but because it matches the person's set on belief, they view it as true. Um, so yeah, that's the gift of AI. Also slop. Um, Slop is more important in terms of art. I think we'll get over slop to some extent. Well, there's like I guess like we have two ways in front of us. Either slop becomes like a free media consumed by people who are unwilling to pay money, so you just like watch slop with ads, and that's sort of like the media consumption. And then if you want to pay for human artists, then that becomes paid. Um, 50% of text on the internet is AI generated. I think we're getting there because like a lot of news articles and a lot of like recipes and stuff now are just AI. Um, so yeah, which or like yeah, like it can go with the writing, it can go further down, like because of the looping of AI. But again, like maybe it will be resolved. Oh yeah, so like either we go with Slopville, where slop becomes just a media for poor people, or people just eventually just stop valuing slop that much, and it becomes just like unsupervised kids watch slop, and everybody else tries to avoid it. Um, so there is two ways in front of us. We'll see where we go. Um, yeah, AI slop with ads is the true end state of capitalism. I kind of yes. Um, Something he promised several years ago was made by AI. I mean, I think like a lot of those like tech bros, they just like use AI very widely. I don't know if you have like coworkers. So I have coworkers that would utilize AI very widely. Sorry, I'm like just like okay, here we go. I'm shaking the table. Um, there are people who utilize AI to do like a lot of stuff, like writing emails and like doing reports, especially if you have like a bullshit job. So unfortunately for my coworkers that use that, like, so the job is not exactly a bullshit job. So whenever somebody uses AI in the email, and it's like because you can see they do, then like somebody else goes to their office in person and is like, "What are you doing?" Everybody knows what you're doing. Like, can you just like read the actual email? Um, which is like very interesting. My boss gets really angry if somebody AIs her, because like for us it just means that the person didn't read, not that the reply was AI generated is the problem. The problem is the person didn't really read what you asked them to read. But if you have like a little of a bullshit type of job where you just like say, "Oh yeah, we'll see you for like for dinner," now for people who have that, they can utilize AI for a lot of their work. And a lot of people who have like normal jobs are forced to utilize AI. So I think like a lot of tech bros are kind of pioneering that in their work, where they just like ask AI and then they like take that. Um, is it good or is it bad? I think it's like bad, especially since we now have like policy and reports and lawyer documents, which are known cases of AI use where it's like stuff just like doesn't make any sense. Wasn't it like I was reading on the news like recently where one of the like police departments they used the AI to generate police report, and somewhere down the middle it said that police officer was turned into a frog. Um, so guess Pepe strikes again. So like I guess like for a lot of like Elon Musk type people at the like we view them as like this very smart, but actually they are very rich. So let's not confuse the two. And like a lot of people would think that since they are very rich, they're also very smart, but it's not like it's not really linked. So I do think that a lot of the times they will just outsource uh, outsource their like thinking and their decision making to AI because they believe AI to be valid. For the rest of us, though, yes, slop with ads. Everybody gets slop with ads. You just watch YouTube and it's slop and you get ads and then that's it. And it's generated, like, it just generates cash. And the other thing is, of course, if you just have something like OpenAI feed, which is just AI generated feed, there is nobody to be paying for, which, for example, like YouTube in part pays money for what I'm doing here. Well, not really, this is not monetized, but it will eventually be for somebody who watches it late, which, by the way, how I do the streams and the videos, like if you watch it earlier, there is less or no ads, then eventually I just like put them back there. Oh, your right ear loves that. Is it going into one ear? Hopefully not. uh, but yeah, so yeah, for the rest, it's just slop. So slop doesn't need to, you don't need artists to generate it, and you need, like, I guess, water and energy, but again, uh, people will pay for that in their municipal fees and stuff. Which, kind of relevant for Alberta, but I'm not sure where they are. I actually didn't read about that. I should read about that because Alberta has a little bit of an interesting geography in that sense, and of course, conservative government, and we're building data centers. Like Alberta, just to be honest, it's very Albertan thing. Anything that rolls in here, we're building it. Like cannabis was up, we were building cannabis greenhouses. Like there was weed everywhere. We had like fields of weed because like anything comes in, people are just like, yeah, I'll do it. Like I'll do it. Jobs, get more jobs. Oil, gas, weed. Nobody cares what that is. Now we're gonna build data centers. But the thing is, in Alberta, like all people live south, and all the water is up north, which already has been a problem a couple times. There are talks to build a pipeline from like north to south, which will carry water for people. Sorry for it does. Yeah, I don't know how to fix that. I'm sorry. The okay. Where am I going with this? Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure why is it going into one ear. Can I just like change it to mono? Um, okay, maybe. Uh, left to right, monitor off, mono. Status active. I don't know how to. I guess we'll do it. Go only to right channel. Oh, only to right channel. Good. Well, I can see that it's going into one ear. I'm not sure how to how to switch it to mono. Oh, here you go. This is how you switch it to mono. Wow, you should have told me earlier. We would figure this one out. It should be going to your both ears now. Sorry, I'm technologically challenged, I guess. Um, well, that's what technology gets you. You get older, and then now nothing works, and at least this time camera is working. So maybe next time both camera and sound will be working. Now it sounds better. Wow. Well, yeah, like guys, just like if something is wrong, just like tell me, because I don't really. It's kind of like hard. It's actually harder than making videos, I think, because you have to do it on the spot and you have to like monitor. Oh, sorry, you have to monitor everything. Like I can't just like set and check and go. There's a Klein and Abundance that seemed like an even bigger nothing burger than the Epstein files. Yeah, I didn't include it because I was like, well, I think it was relevant for like 5 minutes before Zohran kind of started his campaign, and it still is kind of just like a liberal stuff, which I think like some of ideas are I find interesting, but they are not like, let's say, that different from I guess like I come to this like with this Alberta and Canadian mindset. Like what Erza Klein is proposing is like Alberta conservatism, which is not new to me. You know, I live in it, I boil in it, I cook in it. It's like soup. And I feel like the mass production of data centers is a great counterexample. Yeah, like that's what like I wouldn't think it's like counterexample. I think it's like an extension which Erza Klein can't seem to acknowledge. If I, you're right, ear is no longer fatigued. Yeah, thank you for letting me know. I didn't notice because my audio is like up in the up and under the other panels, and then when I see it, it's like now I see it's both. Anyhow, yeah, here's a client, but I'm like not because the problem with abundance is I read a little bit about it. No, I didn't read about it. I watched his interview, and he speaks very nice. But as I say, like to me, his like abundance stuff is very similar to like Alberta style conservative politics, where it's like, oh, we gotta like build everything and do all the stuff, and that's how everybody becomes rich. Which is kind of maybe I'm wrong because I didn't really like read in depth into his ideas. Uh, oh, he's trying to read that those abundist. I don't know if he like yeah, because it's like yeah, like I guess like well that's what I mean. Like it's like flexible enough that it can just you just say like well anybody who like builds infrastructure and does stuff is an abundist. In which case, like yeah, like a lot of left and right wing politicians become suddenly abundist. Like you know, if when Alberta was building like we were seeding weed like literally everywhere. Like that year, like when cannabis got legalized, there was no canola here. It was just weed. Everything was just like fields of weed. Outdoors, indoors, like forget about cucumbers, food, canola, peas. Nobody needs that grow weed. So that's like very like local Alberta type of politics where like business starts pouring in and then they're like, oh, it's gonna make everybody richer. Roll it out on every corner, which I think is kind of like similar to proposal of Klein, where he says like, well, we'll just return to building, and that's how we become great again. Um, which I think we should be building more of like infrastructure and stuff like that, but I don't think it's gonna do anything beyond give us better infrastructure. So like that's how I think about that, which you know maybe I'm misrepresenting his ideas because I didn't really read about him that much because again like I did see it as a little bit of a nothing burger. Uh, maybe he'll eventually like do something with that theory and expand it further. It will become more interesting. But for now, it's like I don't know, a little bit of a not here, not there. And you know what? We need to have a break because I want to go to the washroom because I had a full kettle of coffee while I was sitting here. Um, and then we will continue to we still didn't cover Kirk, so uh, he will come after this break. So and then yeah, and then we'll cover the rest. There is still quite a bit more. I think we just halfway through. So yeah. Okay, 5 minute break. Uh, don't go anywhere because we now have both ears covered. Isn't that exciting? Wow, we didn't even lose anyone. Anybody. Everybody is still here. Uh, every defense of abundance has been akin to, oh, you haven't read all of it, which is like, yeah, Jordan Peterson's argument. Oh, wow, look, we have a cat. We have a cat. Are you going to visit us? Because I was just thinking that, again, I put the chair up and nobody wants to come over. Look at his stupid face. He's like typical orange cat. Are you going to show your stupid face? Here you go. What? What? Okay, go. Yeah, because every time I put those chair, like the chair over here, I put the chair for cats, and then I never visit, right? You never visit. And yet, when I'm sitting here alone, they'll be like all over me, on my head and everywhere. Yeah, so abundance. Didn't read about it. Again, considered it a nothing burger. Didn't include it here. Again, it didn't really integrate into meme culture that much, which to me is like a, is a good indicator that it's not that popular. Maybe in 5 years, Erza will do something with it. Okay, next. Wars. A lot of wars. Now in Venezuela too, as of I guess last night or I guess last week. It depends how you see it. But yeah, plenty of conflicts all around the world. A lot of them find their place in memes, but in a very interesting way. Because it gets turned into, of course, it gets mixed with irony. But on top of being mixed with irony, it also is like there is a sense of just like unavoidability of it, despite like modern conflicts, like like of course, Noam Chomsky wrote Manufacturing Consent. Now we don't even manufacture consent. Apparently, that's not even necessary. Now the governments are just like, well, whatever, I do what I want. Which I think we'll see more of it, actually, not less. Because right now, especially with can I just stretch it? Hold on. There we go. Which I think will be especially with Venezuela now, is like if the U.S. decides that they just like they're going to do what they want wherever they want it, why can't China do the same? And Russia is already doing it anyway, so like just continue. The video about the girl dinner. Oh, it's like very old video. I'm glad people watch like the older stuff. It's really nice though. Pasta puttanesca is the early example of the girl dinner. That's true. Okay, sir, can you just like okay, no. Oh, I know why he came in. No, you can't have this. So Orange Cat has a very like his favorite treat is water. Like so if he sees a glass of water, it's his glass of water. Sorry for going off topic here. And I have a glass of water, which is apparently his. No, it's not yours. Like, look at this. No. Okay. Just for the sake of views, you can have my water. No? Okay, here we go. Drink from the glass. No? No. Okay, for some reason, no. I brought another one for myself. I did see that this might happen. Water is great. Yes. Okay, now he figured that is also water. No. Oh, God. You can have this. This is your glass of water. Okay. Okay, here you go. Now he can have his glass of water. Well, it's off camera, but okay. But yeah. But it's like funny because like he doesn't really like treats or any other food, but he does like he loves water. Like fresh water, running water, any water, great. Especially like new containers, I have to close, like all the toilets have to be closed because he'll drink off the toilet too. Anyhow, let's return to more I guess, pressing matters of war. Um, so I said the year starting the year with the roasting session with Zelensky and continuing with no one's war in Venezuela, America enters a new age of imperial action despite lack of support for any military conflict in the masses. War may be a good strategy for Trump to remain in power beyond his term and is a test of loyalty to the military who are now exercising in America's own cities. Military escalation continues worldwide as all countries are preparing for war, which is a reference for like militarization, as we have militarization in all countries, not just in the US. Memes often reflect on absurdity of conflict for which no consent is present or even manufactured, or as I said, even tried to be manufactured. It's just the war for the sake of war and political influence. And I just put it as a reminder that to all of us, that war, at least in my opinion, is a natural state of man. But peace requires work, dedication, diplomacy. Peace requires losses. Wars require victories. So yeah, difficult times for sure. I think it will get worse for the anafern orange cat controversy has begun. Ethan is making yeah. So I have like a cat water and this water, and I think I already confused them, but it's not the first time. I have so many cats' hair as a spice, so it's okay. Anyhow, I think we'll get more wars, not less, especially in the next at least like 5 years, but probably more because it will just like roll through. Because now it's like okay, it's like U.S. Venezuela, of course. We have Palestinian genocide happening, which I think will continue. The war in Ukraine will continue. Everything will just like escalate further. China might jump on the action too, because again, like I say, like if Russia and U.S. are already doing it, at which point does Chinese government just think like, well, whatever, we're doing that too? So yeah, memes I think will continue to be like a reflection of that, which is, again, it helps to process difficult information. So you turn like stuff, like serious stuff, into a joke. It becomes more easy to spread the awareness. It doesn't go into censorship. It's just like more graphic war content, and it's more digestible. So I think we'll see more of it. I think that's how we're gonna have military coverage of the 21st century is gonna be in memes, and yeah, that's why we. That's what we have. I really like this one where like the this like top right one with the fell for it again award, where Trump is just making out with Israel, and it's just like the MAGA voter in the end, just like crying in the corner, which is kind of what it is, because it's consistently, even aside of just like ethical questions of war and conflict, we also have just money spent, which people elected Trump into power, often thinking that that he is like less militarized than the state Democrats. Well, here you go. Now we have conflict pretty much everywhere. As he is kind of like an expansionist, he's a little bit of like a Mad King Emperor type, so he's gonna have the conflict everywhere. And then I like this Israel one, which I mean I don't know if you can. Whoops, no, we're gonna get there in a second. It's so Putin and Netanyahu, and then Trump and Netanyahu on like 90-degree angle on the same building, which covers the modern understanding of war and how the wars are. Oh yeah, China taking Taiwan would be the most insane wrench to throw into the mess. Yes, but also just like from the strategical, I think like, I mean, I don't like geopolitics because like geopolitics is inherently like unethical and terrible, and like I'm very pacifistic person. I don't like I'm against all wars. Like all wars should end like immediately right now. But like from the strategic standpoint, I think like in China, like as soon as they wait for US to get tangled into like as many conflicts as the US can stretch, they might as well also go for Taiwan, because like if the US is stretched out, what's the better time? But then from human standpoint, yeah, it creates like absolute mess, which is how wars are, to be honest. Especially if it's like imperial conflict. Did I put? Oh, no, I put more notes in it in a little bit further. Yeah. Um, so the moment we've all been waiting for, um, the death of Charlie Kirk. Oh no, that sounded like really bad. Um, anyhow, uh, the 9/11 of the Conservative Party and the online conservatives, and it's a larger event. That's why I didn't put it as a person, because as much as Charlie King was Charlie, oh no, Charlie Kirk was important as a leader of the Turning Point USA. His afterlife in the online space, I think, is more important, and the fact that he was assassinated. So we see the escalation of political violence, of course, with since end of 2025. Right? I would say like Luigi's assassination was the first one, um, and then we continue going. It's like more stuff happening. I think it will also again continue just because like stuff reaches the boiling point, and pressure is building up. But yeah, like it's the indication that you can just violence solves a lot of problems. That's, I guess you can say it like that. So like at some point, uh, when when there is enough pressure, somebody is just like willing to go all in and say like, well, you know what, just take that guy out. And for the longest time ever, I think it's very much like this 21st century Western approach to media and media production, and a lot of like, because what you see is not just that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, but we see like Hassan Piker and Nick Fuentes like freaking out about that. Actually, like I think, well, in Hassana it's more understandable because he had the I think he had like the debate scheduled with Kirk, and then Kirk was assassinated, and then of course Hassan was like, oh no, like who's next? Who's next? Uh, Nobody knows, but there was this Charlie King. Yeah, it's sorry, I'm slipping. But the maybe for some, maybe for his wife now, which has been another meme situation. Um, but for the longest time ever, there was this sentiment that you can just say whatever and not face any consequences, uh, which, to be honest, is like was only true for this like short historical period, only in very stable countries, where people like Nick Fuentes and Hassan and Charlie Kirk all existed, and they just like they could say anything. Like you could go on campus and I don't know, argue with like kids on campus and tell them like that they're like a bunch of miserable thing and just offend them and think that you're fine, like you're just like proponent of free speech, where it's like, yeah, it's a free speech, but things happen to people. Arguably it wasn't like ever true, which I mean, of course I come to this like a little bit like a I live in Canada, but still I was raised in Russia. Like in Russia that was never true. Like in a lot of other countries, in China that was also never true. In a lot of countries, and most of the world, doing any political commentary or doing politics is a risk, um, which a lot of our American co-workers did not really, I guess, appreciate till the latest moments, and now that comes to the Western world as well. Let's say returns, because, like, I mean, that was the case. Like, why did you think, like, in French Revolution there was, or even like anti-communist and like communist eras and like Nazism, it was like very brief period where you can just say whatever and nothing happens to you. And now that period is ending. Town hall with Barry Weiss was train wreck. Yeah. Um, Anyhow, the death of Charlie Kirk. Uh, the main event the main online event of the year, especially for the memes, as we see so many. I think this like bottom one, someone with good with good fucking aim. That was like probably like my one of my favorites for this year, which I filed. Um, just because not just the you know uh, not just because I think something of the Charlie Kirk, but that uh, sentiment, the return of it from the Luigi's time, where the this like a subtle online approval of violence. So we see like something happens, and then mass media will be just like, well, this is all so bad. Everything is bad. And then like the what's his name, Ben Shapiro goes online and starts crying how, oh no, we should remain civil, and we should talk it out. And again, Peter Thiel was like, oh no, we should like talk it out. And then you go online, and what meme culture shows is this like lust for blood, for better or worse. Um, I think that trend will continue. What can I say? So I said, not even born, not even mourned by his own wife, the face of Charlie Kirk, already embedded into a digital culture, was consumed and decimated through online spaces. The sacrilege of idols is the point of meme culture, and any god statue will be pissed on by the anonymous armies of online users posting straight out of their unconsciousness. The Kirk transformation is merely a reminder that all idols will be eaten, chewed, and turned into a turd by irony ridden digital space, where everything deemed sacred by the establishment uh, will be transformed into a joke and into a meme, converted into lowbrow media for the masses that yearns for blood, and converted into lowbrow media for the masses that yearn for the blood of their leaders. Um, that's kind of what a lot of the times we see, and I think like even when the memes are not openly saying, making any point about like violence or assassination, even that whole fact that he was so chewed up, that everything is Kirkified now, that you have like, you know, nothing is holy, nothing is saint, nothing is nobody cares, like in the end it's just like lust for blood, uh, which is not probably really good, especially not for me because I've been like trying to make political commentary, but you know, I'm small enough that it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it definitely will. I think the trend will continue. I think both the escalation of violence will continue, and this meme culture that just like chews people up and spits them out into just like funny memes will also continue. The soy right? Yeah. The soy. Well, the soy right is like the one that is just like whining. I think the soy right is dying. I think the Nick Fuentes right is gonna like chew the soy right and like spit them out in the next couple of years. We'll yet to see that. So, and I think this is like in terms of digital culture, that was probably the main event, and I think one of the ones that will last into this year until something overthrows it. But again, I'm not sure like what type of shockwave will need to overthrow that fact that like political discussion is not the only valid way to do politics anymore. Now there is like also politics of violence by the masses. So, you know, I don't know what else can send a bigger shockwave through American digital culture, Anglosphere actually, because Charlie Kirk was going far beyond in let's say in his assassination went far beyond American politics, because he was very much the assassination was very much a sign that across all Western world, this idea that you can just talk and not face any consequences is ending. So that's pretty universal. Mm. Uh, oh yeah, big part of Kirkification was the fact that people were getting fired for making fun of Kirk's death. Uh, yeah, the biggest example of cancel culture in history. Yeah, that's true. Oh, that's where the soy right is. So yeah, like the soy right was like the this right wing cancel culture, which cancel culture is like a universal. It's left. It can be left and can be right. If anything we can learn from the history of 20th century, it's that I don't think it like changed much from that time. All of this is just universal. So there are people who will be like purging. Lara Loomer, for example, is like head of the cancel culture department for Trump, for example. So she is just like purging the people out of the government, out of like Trump's inner circle. She's basically defining who is clean enough to be close to Trump. We had that, of course, on the left too, and I mean, like we still have that on the left, but probably like this like peak, early middle 2010s, like cancel culture when a lot of people get canceled on like Me Too wave and independent of it. That was also the case, except there was no left Lara Loomer and no libs of TikTok. But those two women for the right now, they are like purgers. They determine who is ideologically pure enough. But again, I think that still Nick Fuentes type of right will just chew the soy right and spit them out if they wish to. Like he might not have a political will to do it, but maybe we'll see. Yeah, but it's Charlie. He was like also like in like here because I'm in conservative politics. Overwhelmingly right. Well, it depends like how you view it, I guess. Because like again, I say if we just go back to um, like 20th century history, and there was plenty of purges of the left by itself, as once the more central part like party formation. I'm talking about like USSR, obviously, but like you get Bolsheviks and you get all the small parties, and eventually they just like purge everybody from inside, from outside. Like when they were going to power, it was the coalition. Once they took power, coalition fell apart, everybody was purged. And kind of what happens in MAGA too. So it was a coalition, now QAnon fell apart, now all the now they're like purging their own stuff. Now they're purging like random people who get fired. It's more so like that they have the power to do it. They have overwhelmingly more power to do it right now, and even before, because like before the left wing cancel culture was basically Twitter. So you get canceled on Twitter, you get canceled. But the right cancel culture is actually like, get fired, lose the job, even if you're like a simple nobody. Get fired, lose the job. If you're in politics and like famous person, lose your position, lose your career. So a lot, and like there is no return from it, because from X they can just like, if you get canceled on Twitter, you can eventually return. Like what we see right now, a lot of these people return. Um, am I ready for another year of insanity? Thank you. Thank you for the cash. Yes, kind of actually. The chaos shall continue. Fuentes was trying to get Hassan Piker deplatformed. Yes, but again, cancel online, like this. I feel like this digital cancel culture that was like ruled by the left in 2010s is done, or at least done for now. Where before you could just cancel somebody on Twitter and they are canceled. Now you only get canceled when you want to get canceled. So Hassan can just like not want to get canceled and continue living like nothing happened, and then eventually just dies out. So you have to just like survive through the rough seas, and then you're fine. So yeah, but all of the right is like, I think like like there is like internal less, what do you say, like they do have less potential for coalition actually. And like it doesn't, I know it might not look like that because we see that right wing is currently in power, at least in US. But they do, a lot of the people on the right will have this more sentiment to just like purge others, especially if it benefits them, because they build like all of their systems are very, sorry to get into theory, but all of their systems are very hierarchical. So one of the ways you can climb up the hierarchy is if you just like purge people above and side by you. So like you have to walk on the heads. So if you're more successful in walking on the heads, you're more successful in right-wing politics. And so people who are already in the right-wing politics, they already have this experience of just like, like purging and like cutting heads and stuff like that. So Of course, they have a little bit more of the adjacency to cancel culture that they would like to admit, and definitely more than like mainstream left does. Because like I don't know, Hassan was not canceled by Nick Fuentes, but Hassan also could not cancel the H3, right? So you know, I guess cancel culture, online cancel culture is dead. Now we're back to like real cancel culture, where if the right wing politicians don't like each other, they just end political careers, and then if somebody doesn't like them, then they end their political life, which is which is what happened to Charlie. Um, oh well, but he'll remain forever in our digital culture, I guess. That's uh, one of the uh, ever living heroes of the internet. Mm. The ineffectiveness of cancel culture and debate that was uh, brought about this rise in political violence. Yeah, because like debates, like, and especially like modern debates, like that type of online culture phenomenon that you see like with Vosh and other right wing figures. Sorry, Vosh is technically centrist. Um, yeah, we can't shut up our opponents with words, so now it's violence. Natural progression. Yeah, kind of. Well, I'll talk about this in like a minute. When we talk about like this like rise of, basically it's like pressure building, in a sense of larger societal pressures building, and when like it's the same as wars become more prominent, if then the violence also becomes more prominent, because it's just how kind of violence works. Yeah, well, let's switch from what it was, because I think Charlie Kirk is the last like event, and then we're gonna go to concepts. Yes, speaking, we're just right on the correct topic. Um, the second Gilded Age. I proclaim 2025 as the first year of the second Gilded Age. Um, so I said, memes widely reflected on what I call a second Gilded Age, with all aspects of the early 20th century politics making a return. Not pictured here, but revolutions worldwide. We see Gen Z revolutions that roll old rich politicians out of their beds. We see a rise of ultra rich tech bros elites that are indulging in elaborate and expensive lifestyle while the poor starve, suffer, and soon will be sent to die in war. The elites in power, serving the rich with political institutions, both are unwilling and unable to contain the inequality and keep the lid on the pot of boiling masses. Notably, return of open violence and also approval of violence in digital culture as inequality rises, and institutions fail to keep it at bay. The sentiment for more drastic measures is growing in a wider culture. So, like, this is what we were just saying. The Dr. Volk is saying. Yes, it's just the sentiment that if your institutions are unable and unwilling to do stuff, then there is a call to direct action, which can be different. It can be peaceful, but more people will feel like they need to take matters into their own hands, which sometimes means bad things happen. Um, and while the rich remind the masses to eat cake when there is no bread, many ask if the existing institutions of power are corrupt and can't help a regular man. What means and methods do we need to adopt to return that balance to the systems of power? Uh, yeah. So, but that's my statement on the meme culture, and that's a lot of what you'll like. It's like, I know it's like a little bit of a unrelated collection of memes, but what I try to portray here is basically the difference in, and really like this Brian Johnson looking at the stock market meme, because that's kind of what it entails. The rich person is just like living this elaborate lifestyle, and then the masses just being in red. And also this like the conservative party memes, like this one. I don't remember what's the horror, like the Hannibal Lecter. I think the horror film is, and this guy crying as Trump is putting the tariffs up, and he now has to work Instead of, having a little computer job, now he has to work in the factory. And Trump is a little bit like Mao, portrayed as Mao. Um, but again, of course, this is a good one. Speaking of violence, so retirement planning for millennials. For those who don't know, this is the cover for the um, how to blow up a pipeline, which is like, the whole thing of the book is like, hey, like if nobody ever takes any action, then at which point like somebody has to blow a pipeline. So again, because a lot of it, and yeah, another recession for millennials, of course. And I think it's like a large part of my demographic is like Gen X, millennial, which are the two generations which I think will be the most affected by all those historical events. Gen Z maybe, but to like a lesser extent, depends how far it lasts. Gen Z might see like the end, like the light in the end of the tunnel, but for millennial and Gen X, I don't think there is the end of the tunnel. People don't live that long unless Brian Johnson has like something to leave after his legacy, except for, I don't know, a lot of expensive equipment. Um, what is the difference between the times I want to hug my opponent and when I want to punch my opponent? I guess the difference will be like the bottom of the Maslow's pyramid of needs. Is it fulfilled? Has it been fulfilled or has it not been fulfilled? Because we are more tolerant of others' positions and of others if there is like if people have everything covered, like if there's like shelter, food, because like in the end people are like pretty fine building their life in like giving basic needs, like because we actually don't derive that much happiness from, I don't know, having like a lot of stuff, but like you have to have basic needs fulfilled so you can have time to build a happy life. But like maybe, I don't know, have kids and like bring them to school and like just live like a simple nice life. But when those needs are not fulfilled and they are continuously not fulfilled and it looks like they will be less fulfilled in the future, the 2008 recession never ended. Yeah. Though, again, like to be a little bit of a Russian, like I think it's a little bit different in for like the where I come from, because there was never a promise of a good life. Which is very 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 Slavic way of living life. Like there was never promise that it will be good, versus a lot of Western millennials and to some extent Gen X and Gen Z. There was a promise of this like American dream, which is now not fulfilled, and it looks like it will not be fulfilled. Not actually the American dream, but just like the dream that like you will have like a normal life, like you'll grow up and go to school, go to university, get a good job, get a family, buy a house, get kids, and then like die in old age surrounded by your family or whatever. Um, entitlement. Yes, entitlement. Well, kind of, yes, but also it was like that. Like, so for some to some extent, that was the promise that the Western countries were hoping to deliver too, but were unable. And then the thing is, I think like it makes it worse, if anything, because it's one thing to believe that you don't have, like you like it's one thing to believe that anything you have is a victory, and nothing is a given. It's another thing that for people to be promised a better life and then get a worse life. So like the baseline is like not zero, you're going like negative, you know. um, so that's where I think in part is like this, because we don't just experience like the flip in this political culture and rise in like militarism and rise in violence. It's also happening very fast. And I think part of the reason it's getting so fast is because a lot of millennials and a lot of Gen X are aging. So like the thing is, like once millennials are 60, well, the train has left the station. I'm sorry. Well, for most of us anyway. But when everybody is still like in their 50s, like 30s to 50s, they are still politically active, which in the peaceful times means that these people will be like, I don't know, doing like school lunch programs and going for state politics. But if the pressure is building, this political action can take different forms. So yeah, That's where we kind of are, and it's definitely building because rich are getting richer, and not just that. It's just that the social nets are degrading. So you can visibly see it. Like you can go on Instagram and view all those like people. Like Brian Johnson streams on YouTube just as I do. So but he's not really. I just like tangle with him because I find him interesting because I find healthcare interesting. But there is plenty of celebrities. Jeff Bezos rented the Venice for his wedding. Who here rented the Venice for their wedding? I don't know anybody. Uh, in Soviet Russia, CD burned you. Yes. um, uh, yeah, they're very different Russian view of life. Yeah, like it's like, well, though to be honest, like I'm still like coming from the generation which had it really well before I immigrated. Like I come from like the I don't know. There is like a videos by what's his name? It's like a famous Russian YouTuber, and he has like the abbreviation uh, NFKRZ. Um, Roman, right? Uh, so he has a video about that. So I'm of the same age as he is. I think we just have like a year or two difference. But basically, we were born like in the 90s when stuff fell apart, and then as we were growing up, it was actually getting better. So there was like a little bit of a promise, but then the promise was broken really early. It was broken like about like 2010, 2012, like with the Medvedev and like, then return of Putin to power. That's when my generation was like, well, actually, no. Well, put your hopes into the closet, forget about that. And then it returned back to like old Slavic, everything is bad. And then if you're not starving, you should be thanking everything and like going to church and like just, because there is a nice saying in Russian, which is never talk away the begging bowl and the prison cell. So like which basically means like you're always at risk of losing everything to either poverty or prison. So enjoy your life while it lasts, sort of thing. Which is very rough, and I don't think is the right. Like I'd much rather not have that actually than I did, but it gives like this difference in perspective to modern Western countries where the hope is broken now, not like when people are already like 30 and 40. And the thing is like, well, if you're 40 and you still don't have a house and you don't have a family and you don't have retirement, what do you do? Like, like it's like at which point do people start feeling that pressure on a personal level? Is the neoliberalism collapsing or coming to fruition? I think it's collapsing, but yeah, they both I think are valid. You can make a valid argument for both. In 2025, my boomer boss still gets defensive when I tell them I am probably going to be earning my living well into my adult age. Yeah, a lot of them still believe that the lie they told us as kids. Yeah, I've heard about that stuff. Like I'm kind of I don't have that many. Like my parents are, they had me really young, so they're Gen X, and they're also Russian. So like their perspective on that is even more aggressive because they lived like through the fall of USSR. They actually had me through the fall of USSR, which is even harder. Like imagine like having a kid when the state falls apart. FPS Russia. I sure miss 2008 internet. Yeah, and a lot of it, I didn't put it here in this, but there was a lot of, it's a reflection of in meme culture too. This nostalgia for early internet that did not suck that much, because a lot of the internet now, it's like, there's slop, there's like Nazis on X, and that stuff was like force fed into you, because of course, like there were like plenty of Nazis in 2008 internet. The thing is, like, unless you actively searched for them, you did not find them. So yeah, such were like there's like this sense of nostalgia for the early internet, and I think it's in part even like in fashion and in culture of Gen Alpha, because they are emulating like 90s. Oh, though, if you want to joke, because I had my friend for the new year, and for those who don't know, so 2007, in Russia is very associated with emo culture, and there is this very famous meme which is give me back my 2007, and then my friend was like, well, actually culture cycles every 20 years, so 2007 will be next year. So guys, maybe the old internet is also coming back. So maybe that nostalgia will bring us something. It definitely will shape the internet. I think it's shaping a lot of how young people in general interact with technology, because a lot of them will just try to self-restrict their technological access. They will just like remove the algorithms off of their devices, de-add everything, go to analog devices and stuff like that. It's coming back. Yes, indeed, we will return to 2007, no matter what Medvedev is saying. For the okay, I don't. Well, there are people who watch me who like who are coming from like Eastern Europeistan. So yeah, like there is also the meme on the end of meme of 2000 never I will never return 2007 is Medvedev being a president saying, well, we will never be able to return 2007. So it's kind of like a self-reinforcing meme. Gen X with lead poisonings, millennials with microplastics, yes, and Gen Z with PFAS and forever chemicals. We're all full of chemicals. Did I say Eastern Europeistan? Yes. That's what I call that area. Um, it starts somewhere at Balkans and it continues. Mm. It's if anything can save us, it's old internet. Yes, which I think in part is like I think in part this like if younger generations are able to establish that different approach to internet compared to because there is already like our generation, like my generation is already treating it different from our parents because like like I don't consume that much AI, but there is still people who are like like it's just I have plenty of friends who are of my age who are just as much into like consuming slop and like no problem have no problem with AI, use AI all the time, consume media generated by AI, see no problem with it and don't identify it as directed by AI, consume algorithmic media, whatever Facebook gives you. That still exists in our age, but then younger generations might like sway away from it. If they do, then that will change how they perceive politics and the way they do politics, because like right now basically online digital culture is the politics, which I don't think is good or healthy, and I think is part of the problem here, but also part of why I'm doing presentations like that, because I think at this time it's important. The dark net, the light net, yeah. Oh yeah, the internet where you still had to. I think this will actually be really beneficial if we return back to the point where you still needed to plug your internet into your phone and you were not able to use your phone while you use the internet. I think that might resolve a lot of problems. Um, it was so inconvenient though, and for everybody who was growing up in that space, like I did run a lot of times in trouble with my parents because I would be on the internet and they would try to call me and they could not call me, and then they would call my neighbor, and then the neighbor, who's like older lady, she would have to physically come and just like tell me everything that my parents think about me. uh, so yeah. Okay, next one. Mm. Another one on the same way, the American Century of Humiliation, which is a meme itself. And this is the central, like this strategy of tension is like this. I mean, this is a meme, obviously, but the Cybertruck burning in front of Trump Tower because guy in the Cybertruck planned his attack using AI, and then there was no victims, of course, except for him. This was actually the beginning of the year. So this year would start with the annexation of Venezuela, I guess, Venezuelan state at least. Last year started with Cybertruck burning in front of Trump Tower. Got grounded all the time. Parents would pick up the phone Yes, when you're supposed to be in bed. That's probably even worse. Well, even worse. Yeah, I did this like after school. I would plug out after school without calling my parents, because like of course when you go home you're supposed to like call the parents that you made it. Uh, so I would need to call my mom's work to tell her that I came back home, but I wouldn't. Instead, I would plug the internet, and she would try to call me because obviously she's like, "Where's the kid?" Well, such were the times. But I think like if we return that back, then the because that will change the use of internet back to where it was, like where internet was like an intentional time spent online and not just like a stuff in your pocket all the time. I think it was actually not a terrible thing. Listening to the modern scream, yeah. Oh, modern scream like this, like oh god, I can't replicate that noise. But yeah, the modern noise, yes. Oh, but then it gives you nostalgia now. So now you think it's like, oh, good times. Um, Anyhow, American Century of Humiliation. On the continuation of the topic of do I think it's collapsing or coming to fruition? I think it is collapsing, but very slowly, and probably not like crumbling, but like cracking. Um, what I put here? I put notes. I said that 2005 indicated both economic and geopolitical decline of the American hegemony. MAGA's America First proved to be a crack in the position of the US in global geopolitics. It also indicated a financial inability of the current neoliberal state as Trump, well, sorry, as Trump has to reverse to 19th century trade practices and inspirations from feudal period of Europe to mitigate financial standing of the US government and the century's central position of the US in global trade and politics. What MAGA sees as peace through strength, Europe and other Western nations see as old king gone mad, a threat to all and to himself, as the other Western nations struggle with their own signs of decline, loss of power, and militarization. In meme culture, immigration, unaffordability, poor working conditions, inability to build family, all social ills are found, and they all indicate that all users that the old world is barely holding, and that something is finally happening. Guys, something is finally happening. Stuff is happening. And then, of course, the American Century of Humiliation also comes with two concepts: Russian multipolarity, or belief that empires can coexist when they clearly define their spheres of influence, which is not true and not how it's historically been. And the rise of China, as Chinese economic and governmental order proves to be working for the Chinese industry, infrastructure, and society, and is a model more commonly adopted by the developing nations as opposed to the late 20th century idea of neoliberal Washington consensus. Let me turn the lights off. Managed decline. Yeah, I think this is a good way to put it. It's a managed decline. Oh. Here we go. Is that better? I think it's a little better. Yeah. It's getting brighter. Okay. Okay. So yeah, and this is like, of course, the Fell for It Again award, and this little hat, which I really like. I think this is the start of that meme. Hello, I'm fleeing the American Century of Humiliation. Can you show me where I can buy Monster energy drinks? And then it's the same thing but in Chinese. So, which is also like a in part reference to the Americans who are fleeing US and like moving to developing nations, be like, even since like COVID, people moving to cheaper nations while they still work in US, and they like gentrify those places, but they also are running away from their own country. What percent of adult Americans really believe America is the greatest country on earth? Hard to say, is there are people who like live outside the US who have this sort of thinking, people inside the US who have that sort of thinking. people inside of US who like have totally opposite way of thinking. They think like America is terrible and needs to fall apart, and um, which I think is like very inconsiderate of their own life and their own neighbors, because nothing ever falls apart in peace. Um, so yeah, um, but still, like the American, like like a lot of like MAGA type of American politic will just see America as like the greatest place on earth and the centralist position, and they feel like they're centralizing the position. But as a person who lives in Canada, well, actually, not just as a person who lives in Canada, if anything, the Canadian results can tell you, and how poor Pierre got like flipped out. For those who don't know, Pierre Poliver. So now he's not PM. Now we don't have to learn his name. How about that? Now he's a PP forever. Um, but Pierre didn't just lose the Canadian election despite having like the biggest lead that anybody ever had in this country. He didn't just lose the election, he also lost his writing. And all of that was just his inability to like change his narrative in the face of Trump. Not like, I think like, cuz we had what's his name? Tom Ford. We had Ford in Ontario who really uh, he's a conservative politician who successfully rode a wave of Trump politics. Pierre couldn't do it, and then he just like lost. Like he lost everything. He had to run back to northern Alberta and run in northern Alberta to get himself a seat, which is just like it's just Pierre's century of humiliation, if anything. But that was like a testament to how other Western countries are seeing the what's happening in US, and then the fact that Canada and Europe are back to militarization means that they're also trying to kind of decouple their military from the US. Um, which to me means that they are thinking that there is, even though there is no open conflict right now with the US, they consider that they need to separate themselves to some extent in case there is any conflict, which we'll talk about in a second. Um, but argument for collapse, well, just because I am making argument for collapse also, right? So yeah, I think there will be people who will just say that it's just like a peaking, not falling apart, it's peaking. The best part of the streams is when Anna talks about Russian life quality. No, I've been there. The thing is, part of it, I obviously carry that history, but it's been a long time that I ever was there. Like, I don't follow Russian politics that much, and like, yeah, a lot of my friends here are Russian, but they're just, but all of them are like also immigrants. So it's not Russians; it's like Canadian Russians. So, which is a different thing. So, what do you have? Okay, this is for American century of humiliation, but also to the rise of China. We see this testament of like China being in the memes and in the meme culture, and as portrayed as an alternative, in a way, actually, and an alternative that a lot of countries are trying to adopt. Actually, a lot of developing nations will send their politicians to China for education and training on the political front, so they can bring those the Chinese model back home. Why is there like loud music playing? Oh, maybe it's my neighbor. Anyhow, if you hear it, that's my neighbor. Speaking of wars and falling apart and peaking, I just put it here because I'm because I'm doing this stream from Canada. Anyhow, imperial expansionism found their place in meme with the Gulf of Margaritaville and the Gulf of International Proletariat. I really like this one where, God, I don't know if it's like big enough for you to see, but there is basically two MAGA guys, and it's like situated in a war in Ukraine war zone. But there is the guy that says like, oh, there seems to be a mistake. He said, oh, I think we're supposed to end wokeness. And then the other MAGA guy is like saying to dig the fucking trench, and they're going to Ottawa. Anyhow, on the tail of the American century of humiliation, the dying king, like all nations in distress, which to be said about Russia as well, um, has been looking out to prolong its life by consuming its neighbors. And the American desire for the North American empire, not the American, but like more like, GOP desire for the North American empire, from which, by the way, would be from Greenland to Panama. While a great geopolitical pipe dream fueled nationalism in Mexico, Canada, Greenland, and other nations in American sphere of influence, indicating that masses see such proposals as a joke or as a threat, which they do not approve. Yeah, so I just put it here because it's like it's indeed a threat to. It is like, if you think about that, living in Canada, there is like nothing to conquer in Canada. Canada has like 3 centers where most people live, and does not have much of a military, and has an open border. And again, Canada has been militarizing. Like after Carney came to power, he did expand military, and in part, like there is, Canada doesn't have much of, like, of course it has like geopolitical conflict, like ideological conflict with a lot of countries like Russia, China, whatever. But it does not have a risk of any open conflict with anybody except for its only neighbor. Well, there's like more neighbors if you consider the pole, but like the actual main threat to Canada is actually US, who's its like biggest ally. But now that Trump is in power, I guess a lot of politicians are rethinking that structure. At least, like, to me, that's my understanding of why Canada is militarizing, because there is no will for Canada supports European Union, and Canada invested into European Union military this year. But like there is no testament and no precedent and no desire for people to get involved physically in any other conflict right now, except to protect yourself from any future conflict. Which, anyhow, but a lot of it was memed. So a lot of it was memed just as an indication of like how ridiculous the idea is. But I also would like people to think that even though it is ridiculous, it is also geopolitically valid. Like the idea of North American empire is alluring to some ruling people, to some people in power, even though it's never gonna be like peaceful. Like it's never, and that's not how things happen. And this is part of, again, discussion of peace and violence, and how people view geopolitics, that there is this sentiment that you can just like have things and not have conflict, that you can just have, like, let's say Alberta join, which is like Alberta's independence, and like idea that Alberta can join the US, and they can just do it. It's not how history runs. Usually if anybody gains their independence or gets absorbed into a different state, that happens through war, not through I don't know, peaceful protest. Isn't that how Canada is doing the return to the British Empire? In part. Yes, yeah. This is like a return to Canada as part of British Empire. Yes, yeah. In part, like, I mean, like this is the memory of it. The memory is coming back. I've been on a 10-year exploration of traditional and ancient Chinese culture. I was already pretty familiar with the post-imperial China. Pretty illuminating. Yeah, I think it's gonna become more interesting. I think like this, like the American Century of Humiliation is also like in 2025 in general. Unless something turns in the next 3 years, like historically will be viewed as like the start of conflict between Chinese and American systems, because now it's not an open conflict because US is still in power, but the power is cracking, and then you have China who is rising. Which, again, there is never, I know it's an idea of BRICS, and again, Russian multipolarity, which is also very common now online. Believe that you can just have like 5 empires and they will be in peace, which, anytime this globe had 5 empires, there was never peace. So, Um, yeah, weird for 300-year-old America to pick a fight with 600-year-old uninterrupted culture. Yeah. Well, I think not like that they're picking it. I think it's more so unavoidable. Um, but yeah, it's Anyhow, it's not looking bright. I think it's gonna be chaotic and not very good for the next however many years it lasts. Again, I think Gen X and millennials will not see the end of this conflict. Unless, I guess I wish all of us very long life. Then maybe we will. Um, Speaking of not so good things, I'll end on a good note, actually. So this is not the end. Um, the rise of neo-fascism. I think this central picture of the Statue of Liberty, like split with the Guantanamo uh, prisoner, is also one of my favorites through the year. Um, yeah, what a selection. Top right one is also cool, with the Kanye chorus, popular Kanye chorus. Um, so yeah, what did I say? I said that if there is a point where we can say that we now have a new formed hard right 21st century ideology, is 2025. Coming from the heart of the dying American empire, modern neo-fascism, uh, name is a placeholder because we currently don't have a name for what we have, but I say neo-fascism, has the following characteristics, and I just try outline the characteristics just derived from kind of what is reflected in memes. More can be added, some can be removed. But severe economic inequality between technocratic and political elites and the rest of the masses. Typical fascist elements such as anti-immigration, anti-feminism, anti-queerness, anti-unions, combined with new developments such as limited post-racism. That's why we can have Nick Fuentes and Kanye West uh, leading the cultural movement on the right. Uh, Racism in post-colonial countries and cultural preservation in pre-colonial countries, which is to say, what do you say? Oh, post-racism in post-colonial countries. So, like countries like U.S. and Canada and Australia has to form their nationalist movements around the idea that anybody, like anybody can be included in the movement. Like it doesn't distinguish themselves by race anymore to some extent. And then in the European Union, it's more so the idea of cultural preservation, where they say, well, we're not nationalists because we don't like you. We're just trying to preserve our culture the same way that you are trying to preserve your culture in like India or China. So atheists, the god, is there is what the current movement is kind of atheist, either post-religious, or religion doesn't matter, or the god is actually the leader, which is again Trump as Jesus, which is found in right-wing memes widely, like in this like mainstream MAGA. So yeah, an ideology that openly embraces the achievement of its goals by all means necessary. Again, speaking of violence, all violence is justified in the war for the sovereignty of the nation, which is why we see a lot of violence on the like ICE and anti-immigrant violence, and reliance on information and surveillance technology, control over platform ecosystems, media, art. All is necessary to contain the masses. When all fails, surveillance becomes a tool for elimination and control of opponents. The tech industrialists and their tech developments are braided with the state, providing both tools of control and tools of violence, forming a dual power, one of politicians of old institutions and the other one of new tech owners and new institutions of power, which sets a potential for conflict and for transfer of power between the old, which is like establishment GOP, and the new, which is technocratic elite. Yeah, that's it. So, not that's it. I have more stuff, but that's it for the rise of neo-fascism. But the reason I included it is just like the cultural understanding that we now have a real hard right. it's building on the old stuff. It is relatively new, but we now it's like it's here. It's here. It's real. It's culturally significant. It broke containment, and it will have to stay for a while. Democracy Manifest guy. Uh, Maybe I don't know. Is it there? I think so. I think that you talk about like the top right one. Uh, Doctor Volk. Oh, we propose to get multipolarity just one more time. Yeah, multipolar. It's the Russian, very Russian idea. It's very telling that it's coming from Putin's Russia because it's like nothing of it is new. It's just the old idea. Um, the Christ is King meme. Yeah, which is like I'm obviously Orthodox, but I don't understand the Christ is meme. Christ is King part. I think it's like evangelical, right? Like, or I think it's evangelical, because you see the Christ as like the not you, but like the people see the Christ as the like leader of like not like almost political leader. Yes, the top right. Yeah, yes, I think it's him. Yeah, but the text is different though. It's the for singing the chorus, for popular Kanye chorus, which is of course the reference to Kanye's song for Hail Hitler. Um, yeah. And yeah, the second, I like all of those. Like, I think all of those are very, very telling. But in general, it's the unfortunate reality is that not just everything is falling apart, but we're also having neo-fascism that is firmly embedded in culture now. I think it's like that's part of why I put it here for 2025 because I think it's now officially here. Nick Flantis broke containment. It's part of this narrative of the rise of the modern hard right. They have their own ideas. They have their own power structures. They've been testing them out. They have kind of Trump in power who's gonna close the eyes in a lot of the ways to what is happening, like the stuff that is happening. Honorable Chairwoman of America. Uh, that's why. That's because I'm in Alberta, okay? Because that's why. In the end, aren't we all here a little bit like that? Thank you very much. Uh, oh yeah, the proletarian internationalism meme. Yeah, I think this is like the really telling of this whole. At least like from the leftist position where you say, you all got any proletarian internationalism, and they just have this for you. We just have neo-fascism, racial neo-fascism, where anybody can be included as far as they're willing to make compromises on their neighbors and well the typical stuff, as far as our people are allowing ICE to arrest and deport people, as far as those people are not us, then we'll just say everything is good. Which, to be honest, even though it's coming from America, it is very much like it's like spreading out. It's present in Canada already. We already have the just neo-fascism. Yeah, we already have the remigration talks, which are like what ICE is doing is forced remigration. They just remove the immigrants out. So that talk already comes back here as the as the solution to what? It's a solution to to the idea, like this belief that white culture is under threat, whatever that, like it might not be like white culture, it might be in this case actually it's not. Actually the ideas of like white nationalism are not that popular, but the idea of American culture, and in Canada it's the idea of Canadian culture. So like what is American and Canadian culture? It's Christian, European derived, patriarchal, whatever you want to say. So feeling that that stuff needs to be contained and is under threat, and that it's under threat by immigrants, and then those immigrants need to be forced out. So in the out group becomes like not particularly the Jews or the brown people. The targeted group becomes illegal immigrants. Mm. Uh, what do we have? Oh, yeah, the co-opting of previous memes from the state is crazy. Yes, which is like, again, comes back to that topic of like violence and AI. So a lot of people disapprove of the Homeland Security's narrative, and I think it will be influential because a lot of people are exposed to it. I think it will be influential over the backlash that Trump's and GOP and all those like neo-fascist movements will face, because actually, unfortunately, a lot of people will be more okay with forced removal of immigrants if that was not televised in such a cruel way. Because the cruelty itself, as long as it's hidden, a lot of people are willing to accept it. Once cruelty becomes more public, then people are more prone to say, well, not, like, yes, maybe I wanted this, but not in this way. Or neo-looted movement that combines people's hatred for AI and working class solidarity. I think it will come in. I think a lot of unions are actually taking that position because AI is used to reduce jobs. So I think there is going to be this anti-AI sentiment, and a lot of it is like kind of like a split of people who are willing, like humanist and anti-humanist movement, which is like hidden under that AI discussion. So people, and like neo-fascism itself. So like you have people who are like more, who will be more humanist, more anti-AI, more pro-worker, more pro like, and more against violence and means of like removing immigrants and stuff like that. And you have people who are anti-humanist. They don't care about AI. They don't like, they're fine with AI replacing workers. They also fine with ICE just detaining and shipping people elsewhere, which is an underlying discussion for those two. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So onto the good stuff, I think. Let me see if we're onto the good stuff. Yes. So this is kind of like the wrappage of it. Not the wrappage of like the events related. I have two more topics to cover, which kind of didn't fit into the narrative of the year, which has been a big train wreck, and but they're still kind of important. I think they're showing like something for the future. Yeah. So one is absurdism and Gen Alpha memes. I'm sorry that we have to include this, but we have to include this. This is important because this is the future. Folks, this is our future. The kids are onto something. So it's hard for me to still say what to make of it because we're talking about the memes which are coming from basically kids, and kids are absurd and weird and strange. But we have this absurdism in Gen Alpha memes where it's just like nothing makes sense. What is 6-7? There is no meaning. Like, what is with Italian brain rot? It obviously comes like there was like Skibbity before and like Ohio. I actually thought about that, and I think Ohio just became a meme because it's really nice to pronounce. Like Ohio for 4-year-old, like you can imagine the 4-year-old going around like store just repeating Ohio over and over like a million times because it's such a nice like word to say. So what did I put on the? But it's important. I said it is too early to say if the absurdity is the result of just children interacting with the online media, or it is a product of genuine interaction of Gen Alpha with the world around them. Because if it is, then when nothing matters and the world around you is on fire and your feed is full of military grade gore and the AI slop from the age of 5, does anything matter? And if nothing matters, then the only like solution is the absurd, and that's kind of what a lot of Gen Alpha memes are. So I'm not sure if I'm thinking too much into this, or it's just kids being kids. Because uh, seeing those memes makes you feel like you're in your mid 30s. Yes, yeah, like because the thing is like, what is this? I don't know, like how I don't know how to analyze it behind, like below, oops, sorry, beyond the point of just being the like absurdism in the same way that those like absurd and geometric art becomes more prevalent after world wars, like when the world is the art sorry the art died in trenches, and then the art becomes just like abstraction after the world wars. So are we like having something like this where the people are just, and they're like, the thing is, think about that, like I have so much gore in my feed over this last year. It's just unbelievable. I don't think I've seen anything like that since like early internet, when you would just stumble across the space that you should not be in. But there is so much like military action and war crimes and violence against like regular folks, like like the ICE detainments. And then you have like the state Homeland Security posting Ghibli cartoons of ICE detainments. So it just, so much violence that does it just like sort of break this kid's understanding with the world, where absurdity becomes the like kind of like the pinnacle of culture. Like we just say, okay, like everything is, nothing makes any sense, everything is absurd, so our culture will be too. um Ohio. Does it mean hello in Japanese? I don't know. I think ni hao is hello in Japanese, but I may be wrong. um uh, I always loved absurdism. It's cool not to have to go looking for that absurd media anymore. You feel completely in your element. That's true. If you like, because it's like sort of like shit posting brought to absolute, like shit posting and this like post irony brought to absolute, where it's just like, okay, there is no irony anymore. Like the underlying context is completely done. There is no major links to like real life, and the links which are like exist to real life, they're just references of references of references of references. So like it's just absurd. Uh, and the that's what I think. Yeah, that the art is just getting like the memes get more absurd as the life gets more absurd. It means good morning. Oh, okay, here we go. Good morning in Japanese. Ohio in. Okay. Well, here's my impression of Japanese, I guess. um, this is one thing which I found really interesting. Uh, I think we'll see how it develops. We see how the kids develop and how their memes develop. But I do think that some absurdism will be here to stay. Maybe not as sharp as it is now, because right now it's just like weird. Or maybe it will just be me become more weird. Who knows? We'll see. Any tips on how to turn from nihilism into absurdism without losing empathy? Aren't you like supposed to already lose empathy when you go to nihilism? So kind of like absurdism and nihilism are sort of in one pit. Uh, Rurik first brought the number 7 to Novigrad in the year 1000. That's why Putin is holding the number 7. Maybe. Or maybe it has something to do with the, I don't know, multipolar world. What's the other character on the left? Also, is that the Epstein Island at the back? Or is that has something to do with Minecraft? I don't know. Cooked. Oh, Wibzina, yes. So, like, none of that. And also, the Italian brain rot is even more obscure. You lose empathy on your way to nihilism, and absurdism is what happens when you get enough of it back to laugh again. Yeah, maybe. I like that. I like that conclusion. Okay, well, on to the good stuff. Mm. I wanted to add on a good note. So, I'm ending on a Garza. Um, so, a Garza is not a mainstream meme. It's been like under the things, but it's been very prominent this year. I find it more and more. And I said, sorry, I'm going to read from Wikipedia a little bit. Agartha is a legendary kingdom that is said to be located in the inner surface of the earth, which implies hollowed earth, um, though the exact story varies, as there are many different versions. It is usually said to be located in Central Asia and led by a powerful figure, sometimes called the King of the World, who secretly influences the surface. Later versions connected to the belief of Hollow Earth. The idea of Agartha has been popular subject in esotericism, occultism, and New Age since the late 19th century. 19th century. And now in memes. Somebody needs to update Wikipedia. It's better than this is better than the flat earth theory. I think so. And you know, when because I don't watch movies, but then my husband told me that like the new Godzilla movie has a hollow earth. And I was like, wow, we put hollowed earth into Godzilla movie. Insane. So, sorry. In meme culture, Agartha was lurking in the shadows for some time, but now became prominent this year in shitposting. Meme Agartha is a kingdom of peace, ruled by the wise king and his wise advisors, populated by the ascended individuals in the kingdom of peace and justice and serenity. What else to wish for in 2025? uh, this is one of those things I really wish was true. Oh, the Hollow Earth. Imagine how cool would that be if it was like true. I mean, obviously it makes no sense, and like that's not how geology works. But wouldn't that be nice if there was like a secret kingdom where everything is figured out and there is a great leadership just under us? We just need to find the entrance. What does it make you if you cover all aspects of nihilism, but still remain empathetic and suffer a lot from knowing how all this absurd shit that's happening around the world affects people? I don't know. I think it's just like being aware. That's how being aware feels. um, the image of Xi is incredible. Yeah, because like people, Nazi esoteric being shitpost fodder and being mixed with Nation of Islam, Russia, and mythology is so insane. Yeah, it's like perfect meme shitposting. And yeah, the Xi Jinping is also there. Like everybody's there. You can find Putin in there. You can find Trump in there. You can find Milei. What's his name? Argentina guy. Yakub is there. The Agartha King is there. Like everybody is there. We just kind of, especially when they do something like when people who make memes think that they do something amazing or that they are enlightened in some way. But that idea that you can just kind of like have the world, which is good, you know, uh, I find it nice that it still finds place in the meme culture. The idea that there is still place for the perfect world. The idea that even though it's a shitpost, which I mean, part is like, you know, why is it still a shitpost? But there is this idea that there is something good that can still be there, even though it's like mythical and makes no sense. But still, it finds place in culture. So yeah, that's the end of Javier Milei. Yeah, Looney Tune. I find it him extremely funny, but like part of it is like that I don't live in Argentina, so I can just like watch it from the side. Also, he did kind of the fact that Trump gave him so much money did sort of affect Canada negatively because they sell like soy and peas and whatever the same stuff that Canada sells. But anyhow, I find him very cartoonish and very funny as a political character, I guess, because he's just like so weird and random. Even though I don't agree with his politics, and even he doesn't agree with his politics because his ideas and whatever he's implementing in real life don't match at all. Like it's weird. Yeah, but this is all I have for the presentation. I'll just transition to myself, and then if we have questions, we can have questions. Is that in both ears now? Hope so. Shows to me that it's going to both of your ears. So libertarianism, don't try it even once. Well, they tried once when they were eaten by the bears in U.S. When what was that city then that libertarians tried to took over, and then after they took over, they just populated it with trash, and then bears came and started just like eating trash. Oh, yeah. Thank you for joining me. I mean, it's always a pleasure. Um, Bringing the power to the PowerPoint. Yeah, don't you? I like PowerPoint. I also like Excel. I'm one of those people who like Excel and like PowerPoint. Um, isn't that a great tool? Now, using the streaming into YouTube on the PowerPoint, um, spreading the leftist ideas to the masses, reclaiming the platforms. Um, oh yeah, just in case if you go back, well, oh no, somebody. When did we get the second? When did we get the left ear? I don't know. Well, I hope that if for people who watch it after, that it will go to both ears. I hope so. But if it doesn't, I'm sorry. I promise next stream will have both ears sound from the start. So there you go. Um, all right. Any more questions, solutions, proposals before? I still have like some time, but I'll eventually need to go to the dentist. Um, Excel is an e-sport. Not aware, but it makes sense. Because that's kind of how I treat it. I treat it as an e-sport, especially at work. I treat it as like a way to flex over people. Um, okay, missed part of the stream. So Flantas grow massively due to the criticism of Israel. Can you speak on that a bit? Oh yes, yes. So there is like, but I think it's more like 2025, late 2025 stuff. Sorry, late 2024. But there was a point when, like, part of the hard right understood that they dislike Jews, that they dislike Jews more than they dislike brown people, and then they just like turned anti Israel. And then Nick Flanders was kind of like the head of that movement. It is like, yeah, like like is a lot of anti, like not anti, like pro Palestine stuff is mostly all left wing. So a lot of people could not, like, if they, even if they disagree with what Israel is doing, they would still need to, like, they don't want to go left. So there is like a need for them to go to the right, and then they just go to somebody like Nick Fuentes, who's uh, not just anti-Zionist, but also an open anti-Semitist. So that's just like the right wing version of it. Mm. Any hints on your next video? I filmed it yesterday. So it is Brian Johnson is there. Not the Liver King, but like the wellness guy. So that's a good hint for you. Collapse of Joe Rogan's popularity. I feel like the Elephant's Graveyard video was devastating to the Austin comedy scene. That's actually a good video. I think I know what the I forgot what it's called, but I watched it. Let me see if this is what I think. Yes, yes, yes. Well, I mean, I think eventually, I think part of it is that, Elephant Graveyard hated Joe Rogan so much it taught millions about Derrida to do it. True. But I think part of it is that Joe Rogan also became very mainstream, and like his whole, like, you can only premise yourself so long on the idea that you're like anti-establishment media, but eventually, like, you can't be anti-establishment media and be like the biggest podcast on like everything. So that's part of what contributed to his collapse, in my opinion, at least. And then yes, the and also the well, it's like in Joe Rogan, he kind of like because he is like a center of gravity, so he will pull stuff with him. If he goes down, so he goes down, he pulls everybody who wasn't like all this bro. Oh, sorry, all this like bros who comes there and they just like, oh, I'm such a manly man. Our culture is feminine. What's the Zuck said that oh I hunt with a bow. I don't know which one or whatever. Like I don't remember what was exactly the saying that he said, but yeah, and the comedy scene because like obviously they're not doing comedy, like they're just doing mm, contrarian political speech, which can be funny, but you have to make it funny for it to be funny. Uh, the official podcast of the CIA. Kind of, because like the thing is, it's like people who go there, like they are not like. I mean, I guess at some point you can see somebody like Elon Musk or Peter Thiel as underdogs, but not in 2025. Like in 2025, you can't see them as underdogs anymore. They're in power. They're in the government. Trump is in the government. Elon Musk is with him. Like Thiel is doing Palantir. Like all those people, they are not. And Joe Rogan is the owner of most biggest podcast. So you can't really. They lose their authenticity, and they also like lose their status of underdogs. And then who cares about them anymore? Um, some of those people would have to experience self-reflection for them to be personally hurtful. But I think it opened a lot of eyes. Yeah, that's what I think. So I think like a lot of people eventually just like because when things change externally, like politically, when all this because we live in the times when stuff is happening. But when things happen, a lot of people change their opinions. Like it's just it's normal. I changed some of my opinions because things happened, and a lot of people they consume media, that engage with the real world events. They reflect on those events. They change their opinions, and sometimes it comes in as now Joe Rogan is not as popular anymore, and people don't really believe him that much. And then it comes to more attention that he's just like, well, in part this is like my take on him as an interviewer, but I think part of why he is such a good interviewer is because he's just like a hollow vessel, like you can pour anything in there. But that's the negative side of that too. Um, behind the bastards, yeah. Uh, hard times make hard men make hard men. I'm gay, yes. um, oh, well, yeah, John Rogan really was one of those normal guy doofuses. Yeah, at one point. Yeah, then that was like that was the part of his uh, whole like spiel and his like how he rose to relevance because he was just like, oh, I'm just a regular guy having just regular guys on my podcast, and sometimes he still does. Like there will be mm, like people who are just like random. I think he had oh god who did I didn't watch him, but I was like, oh, he's there. Um, Matty Madison there. Oh, he's like a Canadian chef and YouTuber. Um, so like things like that, where it's like, yeah, like he's not like Matty Madison is not a political figure. Like he obviously has opinions and stuff, but he's just like a guy. Um, and that authenticity is lost when you just keep having really rich guests over and over, and then it just becomes like a pilgrimage point for tech bros, where they all go to say that, oh, where Zuck is now just grilling meat and going hunting with something he doesn't know with what he's going hunting, maybe with a stick. I don't know. He doesn't know. But like that pilgrimage to Joe Rogan podcast eventually, I think, what kills it. Mm. Uh, Pretty tired of unprecedented times. Some precedented times would be great. Yeah, would it be like nice for it to be boring? Speaking of Venezuela, that's why I thought I was like, oh, I was going to bed the day before yesterday. And I was like, yeah, that's good. It's like a nice wrapped year. Everything is peaceful for a couple of weeks, and I will just have this podcast. And now I because I stayed up late yesterday, so I already I heard that U.S. airstriked Caracas that was like 11:40, like pretty much like right after that happened, because I'm sitting on the news apparently. But again, I just got like the shots of like bombs dropping on Caracas at 11:40 in my feed, and then I was like, oh wow. Guess that adds some information to the upcoming stream. And then I woke up, and now apparently Maduro's arrested by the government. Well, I think it's like, if you ask my opinion about Venezuela, is like because it's a country with a lot of oil, uh, and I view a lot of modern conflict in the concept, in the frame of fighting for energy resources, which energy resources are gas, oil, coal, which is not necessarily true, but that's just kind of how I rationalize things. But it's a country with a lot of oil. Somebody needs, to do something about that. Too much oil. Joe Sixpack. Check out that AI song where Cardi B raps off a jazz piano. It's amazing. I'll give it a try. Um, Mary Madison. Yeah, I have actually his soups and sandwiches cookbook, uh, and it's a great. I think it's like one of the best cookbooks that I have, because it's the one I consistently cook from. It's really nice. Though I would say that I did. Somebody advised me to watch the last meals before Christmas, and then I binged watched every single, not every single, but close to every single last meals episode over the Christmas period. And then the one with the Maddie Madison is kind of like, I really didn't like it. It's like he shows like very different face there, which I'm not sure if he just was uncomfortable. It was like a while ago. It was like 2 years ago. If he was just uncomfortable, or he didn't know what that stuff was like. Like what was that interview? So yeah. Anyhow, that broke my love a little bit. But the cookbook is great. Um. Uh. Jimmy pulled it up on it for an fastest futurist video. uh, Dominican raid, Mark Zuckerberg. Oh god, yeah, but Zuckerberg, I didn't put him, but he also he was. Is that necessary, my friend? Okay, it's another cat. He's, I don't know, he came through his bro transformation, and actually that one was really interesting because it was not successful. So he was the bro that unsuccessfully transformed. um Materialist analysis wins again. um Venezuela also has lots of minerals for GPUs. Yes, that's true. Also, actually, like Chile does, as far as I know. So there is like countries which have a lot of minerals necessary for the technological age. Um, to make more Charlie Kirk memes. Yes, for sure. How else are we gonna Kirkify everything? We need to Kirkify everything. We need GPUs for that. Mm. Video about MAGA communism. I have one on my Patreon. Mm. um, any analysis of the appropriation of Soviet imagery by the American Zoomer meme culture? Oh, that's interesting. Um, well, there is like two streams, because they appropriated just like communism, like red, like like this, like like the imagery of communism. But they also do appropriate the Soviet realism, which is like Soviet realism is like similar to Agartha memes. It's like the ideal picture of ideal world. But when it comes to just like red, I think it's just, again, I'll go in a direction with that, okay? Which may not be exactly relevant to the question. But anyhow, there is this, like, so we have a little bit of a censorship happening online. So we can't just say that like any part of, like, we have to be against balance online, because that risks censorship. But there is an implication to that like really rad Soviet imagery, because that has an association with the times of repression, and repressions were bad. But also you can say that, well, that's the time when basically people of the Soviet Union ate the rich. So there is a little bit of that embedded. So like there is like this language of again violence in there, even though it's not openly stated. Instead, it's using this historical imagery of the last period of revolution, basically. Um, mm, where would I consider falling myself? Will consider myself falling in the leftist theory spectrum. I've been like thinking about that actually. Let me just in case Cat wants to jump in because he's been. I think he's not interested. The I would, and I think I would still consider myself to be a roughly anarchist in personal views, just because I do think that, borders imply violence, and that the argument still stands true that when you put the working class in power, you have the ruling class, and similar things, which is, the extensions of the anarchist thought. Um, but also, as part of like making this YouTube videos and dealing with like more theory, I do often like question the which is like within the anarchist frame, the ability to um, hold the not just hold the power, but like use the powers and power institution to build a world which is just and technologically advanced, um, and global in a way, which is like the ideas which are not exactly reconciled within the anarchist thought currently. But still, that's kind of like where I sit. But again, a lot of the times when people ask me, I just say that it's just kind of how I grew up. If for people who know me, I'm very contrarian in character, very opposed to authority from my um, own personal position. Like I rarely take authority on the like unless like it needs to be earned for me. Like like I would take, obviously, like there are people who I would see as a good like good, maybe not even necessarily good leaders, but like whose advice I take and whatever. Like of course, like I don't just oppose everything, despite how my mom feels about that. But like I do take advice from other people and stuff like that, but I treat it like still like it needs to be earned in my opinion. I rarely just take like power as a given state of authority personally. So that's kind of like my political views are very much an extension of my character. Um, hope that answers the question. Uh, Flavor equation by Sharma. Oh, this is the cookbook too, right? Uh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I didn't read that one. But I sure put like, cause I do keep cookbooks and I like cooking a lot. This year was the first year that I saw leftist style infighting on the right. Very refreshing. It was under the covers. Yeah. Now we can see this, like, as they hold power, now they have to like like again, like as I said, like they're building hierarchy. So now they have to like purge the hierarchy. But the thing is, like the kind of what happens, it becomes like very like thin and vertical. The stick of power becomes more and more sticky, as they keep purging. But that's kind of like the result of right wing politics and how it's usually done. Um, which again, you see, like I kind of use the anarchist language there, here and there. Um, yeah, that's all I have. We still have like quite a bit of people viewing though. So if anybody has any questions, uh, and if no, I'll go to dentist, where he'll drill my teeth for a couple hours. Isn't that exciting? Mm, okay. Okay. Yes. Cats are okay. All right. Well, um, I'll give it like a couple minutes, and then if no, then we'll just end on this beautiful note. I wish us all good Agarthian future and not not the other one. Oh, thank you. I hope everything is regular. Everything is regular and normal. Mm, a lot of personal enrichment within. Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope for everybody this year is a little better, despite I think it will be kind of rough for this year and next coming years, but I guess my words of wisdom will be that we still have to find joy in our life and care for people who are close to us and for ourselves. Um, and try to make our best, keeping keeping the warmth in our and our friends' hearts. Um, okay. Then if nothing, then we'll go. It's like hard to say because the thing is, I think there is like a little bit of a delay. So I do still like I talk now, but I see that the stream is like a little bit behind. All right. I think we'll cut in here. Um, if anything, email me. See you next time. Video is coming in Feb. Um, it's already filmed. I'm ready to go. And then I'll have another one for Patreon. um, alrighty. Actually, the one who asked me about like MAGA communism, because I have some videos which are like open on my Patreon, just for people who don't know. Like I sometimes just post there. But other than that, like yeah, if you ever just like want to watch some stuff that I have, which is like paywalled, you can just like honestly just email me or I'll give you a link. It's fine. Um, yeah. Okay. Well, if you missed it, come back. Come back, rewatch it. I'm just gonna close it and then it will become available. Okay, bye bye. Close your eyes. It will hurt less.